Hello, everyone. Welcome to this version of Webinars Now. I'm Dave Lundahl. I'm the CEO for Insights Now, and I'm here to talk about a really exciting topic, and that is behavioral KPIs and how we're applied them to really gain some insights into how to win the plant-based burger wars. It's kind of version 2 for those of you that may have part 2, I should say, for those of you who may have joined us in September for our September webinar. And anyways, I'd like to also thank contributors for this, Mark Stevens and Dave Plain, who worked a lot on the analytics that I'll get to present today. A little bit about myself. I've been working in the Insights as the CEO for Insights Now since we founded the company, and been working in the food, beverage, and CPG industry as a researcher now for about 25, 30 years. Really seeing a lot of changes over the years, and especially a movement towards things just speeding up faster and faster. So Insights Now, we really focus on trying to help companies be faster in terms of the insights they provide to kind of keep pace with the changing marketplace and improving speed to success in product development, in brand positioning, and marketing. And if you're new to the webinars now, you'll see on the right side of your screen a some things that you can click through to navigate. Please note the questions box that you have, and this is something that we'll use to do a question and answer at the end of my presentation today. And so just present things, type there. We'll address the questions as they come and go from there. All right. So as in September, we were talking about this plant-based revolution. And if you look at some of these categories, you see some tremendous growth going on. Ice cream, yogurt, creamers, cheese products, ready-to-drink beverages, spreads, dips, and sauces, and so on. Even eggs. There is an amazing sort of number of new products that are coming out now that are plant-based and is dramatically changing these categories. In particular, and what we'll be focusing on today as a case study is really the plant-based burger wars. There's been a tremendous sort of shift in this category as Impossible and Beyond Meat launched their products in the last couple of years. Beyond Meat now, and just recently Possible now even in retail in some places, but you can see how they've carved up the food service industry here in these lists. But they've really changed things because these products do taste a lot like real meat. So they're meat replacement plant-based burgers. So along with these fast-changing product categories, what people are seeking and what researchers are needing is tools for faster decision-making. I'd like to introduce for everybody for the first time something called a behavioral KPI. And these measures and metrics are really outstanding ways to understand sort of ways to make decisions based on various different stimuli that are within your control, such as how do you evolve the brand, what are the claims you're going to add, the advertisements for positioning, what are the ingredient statements, what are the ingredients you're going to use in the development of product, and how are those prototypes, what are they used during your product development process. And so what makes behavioral KPIs distinct from other measures is they are indicators of real behavior. What I mean by that is an example. We're going to be talking about two types of metrics that really can delineate the types of modes of thinking that consumers use, or whether a consumer, when they're presented with a product with an ingredient or ingredient statement or a brand or a claim, whatever, is their reaction fast? Is it an implicit one? Is it a reaction slow? Are they really having to think about it? Is it an explicit sort of metric? And these sort of measures and metrics give us clues into not only how people are reacting, but why. As an example, a metric is the implicit explicit score for ingredients that we'll be talking about today a bit. And what we do is we not only get a okay or avoid for various different types of ingredients provided in very fast, rapid fashion, but we also time how fast people respond to determine if they're using a system one or an implicit or an explicit response mode. And we found a wide number of different applications of these implicit explicit tests. And in particular, today we'll be focusing on applying to claims, labels, ingredients, and brand trust, and fashioning these new metrics into behavioral KPIs. Now, last month, this was the title for our talk where we had Webb Jard was a co-speaker with me. He's the director of technology at Culinex, which is a culinary firm that specializes in clean label. What we did last month is we went through and we created a study. This is an online study utilizing members, participants from our community of, we call them clean label enthusiasts. And these people were engaged with because they are very forward-thinking consumers who really care about the ingredients that go into their foods. These clean label enthusiasts are about 30% of the U.S. population. They are very proactive with their health. They always read the ingredient labels and react accordingly to what those ingredients are. So we had them assess 14 different SKUs of products that are within this category of plant-based burgers. And we even included one that was called the blend burger, which was a product that had some part of beef and plant-based mix. And I'll show you, it's the last one on this list, and we'll talk about that a few times because it had some really interesting aspects in terms of reaction. So just as a recap from what we have presented so far, overall, Amy's All-American Veggie Burger scored the highest using a ranked choice. It's called a max diff utility, where we had people look at sets of 3 at a time and were very random. We looked at not only the brand, they looked at the categories, the claims, and they looked at the ingredient statement. And from that, they picked a best and the worst of groups of 3. And we did this in various different random groups of 3 that were presented to them. And from that, overall, we're able to create these utilities, this ranked choice metric. So if you take, let's say, Amy's All-American Veggie Burger at 10.1, and you take that and you divide it by Beyond Burger's score of 7.4, you'll find that the way to read this is Amy's is chosen 36% of the time ahead of Beyond Burger in a head-to-head contest. Okay, so what about behavioral KPIs? So what we did is I'm going to show you a list of various different KPIs that we use in this category. I'm going to define each of these, and what we did in this assessment is to determine which of these were the most important by using some regression techniques. So let's define what these KPIs are. First of all, trial and awareness. We found that in just doing simple correlations, percent trial and percent brand awareness were 2 different sort of metrics that were highly correlated to choice. So just straight up percentages are behavioral KPIs that we applied. Next, we looked at the implicit explicit test for trust of each of the brands. And this is really important because we know that 16% of clean label enthusiasts, only 16%, trust food companies to a great extent. So trust is an important metric that we've found in other studies. And you can see at least 4 of our brands here. You'll see Amy's, Quorn, Impossible have quite a bit of separation in terms of the score based on this trust distrust metric. Next, we found that there were 29 different claims throughout all of these 14 different SKUs of products. And from that, we did an explicit test to determine the influence of claims and choice. And from the analysis we did, we ended up finding that we bucketed these GMO claims as well as various nutritive claims like less fat, reduced fat, no cholesterol, high protein, excellent source of protein, or good source of fiber. And we created a scoring system trying to keep 100 points, 0 to 100 points for each of the SKUs. And we gave scores of 0 to 80 if various different non-GMO scores or claims were made. And for every one of these nutritive claims, we gave them 20 points into these behavioral KPIs. So these are 2 separate different KPIs, one scoring each SKU on nutritive claims and the other one from non-GMO types of claims. Next metric was based on ingredients. So we looked at, we have an ingredient clean label score based on an implicit explicit test that we gave, where we asked people okay or avoid, and for various different ingredients. And we fashioned this, as you can see, into, as an example, looking at all the different proteins, you see a lot of separation in clean label score, where egg white, pea protein, and so on score very high. That means they're contributing very high to a clean label perception. And things like having soy protein isolate or isolated soy protein or vital wheat gluten and so on, or mycoprotein tend to score very low as an average ingredient score. So we use this metric also. We had a measure for simplicity of the statement itself. So this is looking at the statement. So for instance, if you look at the Great Organic Blend Burger, very simple. Grass-fed organic beef, organic mushrooms, organic rosemary extract. That's it. And with these 3, so it's got scored very simple. It's a 92. Dr. Prager's All American Veggie, you see, very short ingredient statement. It gets a score of 52. And something like Impossible Burger, it gets a score of 41. It's got a lot more ingredients on its ingredient statement. Another one was smart ordering. So as all consumers know, at least these consumers that we research, things that are first on the top of the list of your ingredient statement tend to have the highest percentage in terms of the formulation. Things at the bottom are very small amounts in terms of the total formulation. So if something is scored very low as an ingredient at the top of the list, we believe that consumers will score that overall, but select those products less frequently. So we call that that would get scored low in smart ordering, versus if something had a low score or ingredients with low scores at the bottom of the list would get a much higher smart ordering score. And finally, we had something called the worst ingredient behavioral KPI. And these measures, we just, under the assumption that possibly some consumers may react bad or negatively and not choose a product if there is just one ingredient that scores really low. So for instance, succinic acid is an example. For this example, has a score of 23. So we would assume that that's the one, that would be the lowest score, and that became a behavioral KPI. All right. So what we did is we take these behavioral KPIs and we used them in a regression model to help predict ranked choice through the MaxDiff utility. All right, so that's what we did. Let's now move over to some of the results. First of all, when we did this regression model, we got very good correlation. So we were able to predict or predictions and observed we have a R-square value of 0.85. That means that 85% of the variation amongst these different SKUs of products was explained by the model, by these behavioral KPIs. And you see that the great organic blend burger in terms of the predicted tend to score a little bit lower than predicted. Amy's scored a little bit higher in terms of our model than actuals. And the Impossible Burger and the scored a little bit in terms of the model did a little better than actual observed. Okay, so what about the actual KPIs themselves? So we found that brand awareness contributed the most to explaining the variation. Next was brand trust. The average clean label score was number 3, and past trial was number 4. Nutritive claims, statement simplicity were lesser, and then the worst ingredient, the non-GMO claims and the smart ordering tend to contribute very little to separating these products, these SKUs, and explaining the ranked choice through the Max utility. And you can see it here, for example, the average clean label score. If you map that against the MaxDiff utility, you see that it tracks very well, separating the products and explaining things really well. Things like Field Roast Burger down at the bottom score really low, or much lower than predicted. If you were to look at just the average clean label score, and if you look at that, some other factors like it actually scored fairly low in terms of its statement, simplicity of its statement, and it also had fairly low awareness and trial. So boosting up trial, it may do a lot better with regard to its being chosen in a higher frequency versus other competitors in the category. So to look at each of these individual SKUs, for instance, Amy's, you can see we created we can create various category product scorecards, such as this for Amy's. Looking at the radial chart in the middle, and if you go from clockwise at 12 noon all the way to, say, 11 o'clock, you got brand awareness. This is an order of the most important overall. You see that the dotted line, this is like a 75th percentile. So scoring above that, you're scoring better than 75% of the other products, other SKUs in the category. And you see that Amy's did much higher than the 75th percentile in terms of awareness, higher than 70th percentile than brand trust, at about the 70th percentile for clean ingredients, and about 70th percentile for past trials. So amongst just those 4 key indicators, Amy's did very well, and so its predicted rank choice was pretty high at 10.4. Now, with regard to Beyond Burger, you can see that it underperformed compared to the 75th percentile in terms of awareness. So it can improve its ranking by becoming more aware. It's at about the 70th percentile in brand trust, as well as just under the 70th percentile for the average clean ingredient score. And its trial is less than 70th percentile. So it could boost itself by getting more trial. Could boost its predicted rank choice, which is currently 7.5, by getting more awareness. And the other one to compare against is the Impossible Burger. And you see that its predicted rank choice is 6.7, which is considerably low, and that's related to its brand awareness being considerably less than the 70th percentile, as well as in trust, as well as in clean ingredient score and past trial. So Impossible Burger could improve not only through higher awareness and trial, but also it needs to improve its image in terms of a brand that people will trust, as well as to have a much cleaner product scorecard. So if you look at the ingredients here off to the right and the individual ingredient clean label scores, you see like methyl cellulose at 26, cultured dextrose at 30, the soy leg hemoglobin, which is its sort of GMO sort of way of creating its colorant in terms of hemoglobin type of pigment, is scored 24. Zinc gluconate scored 32. So finding other ways to reformulate, to remove and substitute perhaps these ingredients could dramatically improve the clean label score, its rank choice, because its average clean ingredient score would improve. And last, sort of an overall view for the whole category, we created individual prediction models and mapped them into this space. And then what you see then is the color coding here is actually the predicted ranked choice, the average predicted ranked choice for the 201 people that we had in this study. And you find from this map, it's very interesting, in the lower right-hand quadrant and the red, that is the optimum. That's where you get the highest average score amongst all the participants in the study. Whereas in the far side, the upper left-hand quadrant, you have the lowest scores. And what this scoring system shows you the lift you would get, okay, in terms of once you get awareness, we took out awareness and trial. So once you get, so it's a way of really looking at how you can improve your rank choice. So for instance, Amy's All-American Veggie Burger, which is kind of in the yellow, which is at a 0.5. If Amy's could improve itself by getting over to the red in this map, it could improve its rank choice score by about 2. And it would do this by increasing its clean label score, that means getting a better score, and having a much simpler ingredient statement. So that's how Amy's could improve, even as the leader, if it can actually continue to garner even more of the market share by that fashion, by improving it. Now, if you look at other products like Dr. Prager's, again, it could also prove itself by improving its brand trust, as well as improving the clean label and simplicity of its product. And if you're at Morningstar Farms, you have a lot of improvement to be made in terms of clean label and simplicity. It was actually scored one of the lowest products in terms of clean label and simplicity. But it has a fairly high degree of awareness, and so it can improve very well there. So there's a lot of opportunity for that brand to improve itself to get over to the red area. And Impossible Burger, Beyond Burger as well have a long way to go. Can really improve themselves by getting to reformulating in ways to get a much cleaner label score as that KPI showed. All right, so how do we put all these? What is in general? What does this all mean? So to summarize, if you really think about these fast growing, rapidly changing categories such as the plant-based alternatives, if you're going to win in these dynamically categories, you need speed to market. You need to be able to have techniques where you can make faster and smarter decisions. And we believe, and we can hopefully demonstrate it here, that KPIs, behavioral KPIs in particular, are, especially when you can map them to sort of choice models and ways that are looking at how to really garner more market share, are really uh, great ways to develop strategy. So behavioral scorecards, as I showed you, such as here Amy's versus Impossible, give you a strategic roadmap to really improve your positioning in the marketplace. Or if you're a completely new player, it shows you kind of what you need to be able to do in terms of behavioral KPIs to play to win. And these behavioral KPIs could be of value for marketers, such as ways to improve your brand awareness, looking at ways to improve your brand trust, ways to get to trial faster as ways. Those things are things that marketers can do. And now you have a metric that you can use to gauge your improvement to get higher ranked choice. And for product developers and designers, also a number of new metrics, ways to improve your ingredients. You have a metric for each of the ingredients, as well as metrics about the ingredient statement itself, such as ways to so as a roadmap, to if you're Impossible Burger, you can there might be opportunities to change out methylcellulose or cultured dextrose and so on, and be able to change that labeling in ways to really improve your product, improve your KPIs, and we will predict from these models that you can improve your choice. And these models can be developed rapidly and cost effectively. We can do it for any of these rapidly changing markets so that we can develop KPIs quickly for any application, any product that is any looking at any type of market challenge that you have. And last, these KPIs are brand, claims, and ingredient variant. That means since they're KPIs, you could have a completely new brand and introduce it into the category as long as, and looking at then, generating some brand trust. Claims, you could generate a completely new claim in the product in the category, and we have ways to measure now how it'll boost as well as now the ingredients, creating new opportunities by introducing even new ingredients into and have a way to measure the scoring and how that can improve your positioning in the marketplace. So, how do you fashion solve it to win in the plant-based burger wars? Well, number one, awareness. You've got to improve your. It starts really by having a product that people really know about, and secondly is brand trust is essential. Consumers inherently do not trust companies, food companies, but those that do have trust by their positioning, by what their brand is about, are seem to be doing the best in this category. Ingredients, having statements. This is the differentiator. So having individual ingredient scores that are high, So like say an average of across the whole ingredient statement for all the ingredients is we're finding that that really makes a difference as consumers look at the back of the label and look at the ingredients. And the simpler, the better. You may not be able to be as simple as the Great Blend burger, organic blend burger, but you could follow the simplicity, perhaps, as we saw for the others, like Dr. Prager's. And last but not least, trial. If you get trial, we're finding that you will get lift, especially if it's a product that meets the taste expectations, then people will retry, and we're seeing that as well. So lift from trial is a great additional metric to look at as a KPI. All right, so with that said, I'm willing to take any questions that any of you may have at this point, and we can go from there. What do you think about behavioral KPIs, and how do you think these behavioral KPIs can help you in marketing, help you in product development and design? As these KPIs, you know, uh, ready to address any questions you may have. Any questions at all? Okay, so I have one question here. That question is behavioral KPIs. How do they relate to measures such as overall liking? And what we're finding is that either in this study, it was a survey, so we were not looking at the taste qualities itself, but behavioral KPIs can be also extended into product prototyping. So you can look at how do you evolve a product so that it is liked, or that the sensorial qualities are things that signal benefits that people find are important to them. So just a measure of liking is not necessarily showing to be always a good behavioral KPI. Often, unless it's something where the taste preferences are really important. But often it could be the sensory qualities such as the color, the texture, and other sorts of qualities that really to understand how that there's better KPIs uh, based on implicit testing or other sort of metrics that can be better indicators of behavioral reactions and responses. Same goes with measures of emotional impact, which we found some other sort of metrics of different applications of implicit explicit testing we found to be better than just simply asking people liking. Any other questions? All right, well, that's really good. So I thank everybody for attending. We have next month. The plan is to talk about a global review. So we're launching. We've launched a study to really look at clean label enthusiasts around the world, and so we want to share some of our results here next month. So save the date for um, our next episode of webinars now. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thank you for attending today. Bye.